Declared to the House of Representatives, we are declaring to the Senate, we are declaring to the governor's office that we are not going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. If we gotta come here every week, if we gotta come here every month, we will not be silent.
Well, I've been trying to say something about our criminal justice system. This country is very different today than it was 40 years ago. In 1972, there were 300,000 people in jails and prisons. Today, there are 2.3 million. The United States now has the highest rate of incarceration in the world. We have 7 million people on probation and parole, and mass incarceration, in my judgment, has fundamentally changed our world. In poor communities and communities of color, there is this despair, there is this hopelessness that is being shaped by these outcomes. 1 out of 3 black men between the ages of 18 and 30 is in jail, in prison, on probation, or parole. In urban communities across this country, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, 50 to 60% of all young men of color in jail or prison, or on probation and parole. Our system isn't just being shaped in these ways that seem to be distorting around race, they're also distorted by poverty. We have a system of justice in this country that treats you much better if you're rich and guilty than if you're poor and innocent. Wealth, not culpability, shapes outcomes.
One of the fortunate ones that actually got an opportunity to prove that I wasn't responsible for the crime I was in prison for, but there are thousands, literally tens of thousands more people in this country that are wrongfully imprisoned whose voices are being silenced.
Hello, everyone. How are y'all doing? This is The Low. All right. This is brought to you by the National Plus Coalition. If you are new here, we definitely welcome. Okay. We welcome you. This is The Low, brought to you by the National Plus Coalition. And this show is for those that are, on this side of the G wall, and we have loved ones that are on the other side. They might be our spouses, they might be our fiancés, boyfriend, girlfriends, brothers, sisters, sons and daughters, and etc. We're here and they're there, but we are not forgetting about them. I am not here alone, of course. We see my lovely host. We got Leah Wilson McGowan. I said that right, correct, my dear?
Yeah, McGowan, yeah.
All right, so we are definitely here, and we're going to talk to you this evening. So this evening, we're going to talk to you about, how it is being on this side of the G wall when our loved one is incarcerated, and how to deal with family. Sometimes families, they just don't understand. So, we're here to give you some tips and, just some light and love on those subjects. So, Leah, please introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Leah. My fiance is Clint McGowan, and he is wrongfully convicted out of Michigan. He has been incarcerated since 2006. And his case is out of Montcalm County. We did meet while he was incarcerated. I did not know him prior to him being in prison, which has its own whole stereotype and stigma on it. But, we are met while incarcerated. And yeah, I pretty much as soon as I saw him, I knew like that this is it. This is it for me. It's no doubt. I don't care what his sentence is. He does have a natural life sentence. It's like none of that matters. And then I found out about the wrongful conviction. So now it's just been advocating and doing everything I can to try to bring awareness to that and bring him home.
Most definitely. I think that, there's such a big stigma to those that are incarcerated. I think that people often forget that they're people too, and they're humans, and they love and can love and deserve love. So, a lot of times when people decide to, partner up with someone who is incarcerated that they didn't know before, it's always, they always want to, beat you down. Oh, what's wrong with you? You have low self-esteem, you're crazy and stuff like that. And that's only because people don't understand these are real people that are behind these walls. These are people that are capable of giving love, they deserve love, and they're normal people. They're just not here in society walking around.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they don't deserve and need love as well. And especially when it comes to wrongful convictions, that's a whole different thing. You know what I mean? Both are, whether your loved one did do something or is wrongfully convicted, love is still love, but when it comes to that wrongful conviction, sometimes it can make it a lot harder. It's like you don't deserve to be there. So on top of being there, that, comes on it too. So, there's a lot of tips when it comes to dealing with family. We know that family can always definitely give you the blues. Leah, do you have any experiences with family that you might can share with those listening that might be in a similar situation?
Well, obviously, when my family found out that I was not only, talking to, but planning on marrying and spending the rest of my life with a man who has a natural life sentence, obviously there was a lot of pushback, a lot of hesitation, a lot of, well, what are you thinking? You realize that he may never come home. What kind of life can you have? How is he going to provide? And like a lot of it was like I told them, look, I've been doing this on my own. I'm a single mother. I've been on my own. I've been doing it on my own. I'm not worried about having a man provide for me. I'm not worried about having a second income in my house. All I need is someone that's going to love me for me. And as long as he loves me and he's treating me right and I'm happy, then that's all that should matter to anybody. And it took him a while, but after a while, my mom finally went and met him. And after, she said after we left, she's like, I could tell, but just by the look in his eyes when he looked at you, that there's no doubt in my mind he's head over heels in love with you. I was like, exactly. I said, and that's the thing is, a lot of it is you got to keep pushing. You got to keep fighting for that relationship to try to have your family give him or her that chance. They already got that stigma. Your family's naturally, they love you. They're going to want what's best for you. It's not that they're coming from a place of, being malicious or, trying to hurt you. It's coming from a place of love.
Right.
But
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. But yeah, it's just a lot of it. You got to push for it. You got to open up. They have to be willing to open up that door to communicate, but they got to be willing to do it on their terms. It might take 2 years. It might take, 2 weeks. It might take longer than that, but it's got to be on their terms. Otherwise, they're not going to come around. They're not going to agree. They're not going to even acknowledge that that person's a part of your life.
Right. And we have to also understand that people sometimes can't look outside of their reality. So, our loved ones not being here, some people can't even fathom that, because they're superly dependent on that person being there and touching them and all of that. You know what I mean? So we're happy, someone in a situation is happy, but they're looking at you and like, you can't be happy. They're not here. You know what I mean? So, and like you were saying, like our family members, they want the best for us. So, the best in their mind is whatever their definition is the best of. So I want to let, anyone watching us, don't just be so mad and upset with your loved one. No, hopefully, most of them are most likely coming from a place of love and a place of care. And they just want the best for you and they want you to be happy. And they might just not understand yet. And like you said, Leah, sometimes it takes some time, 2 weeks, 2 years, 22, whatever it might take that time. But I want you to also know that they might never accept this person. And you have to be okay with that and be willing to deal with that and know and feel that my love is strong enough in this situation to where, unfortunately, if they can't understand, I have to be okay with that. You know what I mean? So I want to give y'all some tips, like dealing with family, the first tip, of course, is to understand that most of them are coming from love. So don't immediately get mad and defensive. Because, of course, you're like, this is my boo. What you mean? I'm not. And especially if it's coming with, you're crazy or what's wrong with you. That's an immediate defense. Nobody wants to feel like something's wrong with them or they're crazy. And, of course, we don't you know me enough to know that I would make a decision that isn't outrageous, So, knowing that most of them are coming from a place of love, to keep that anger out of there, and that, open communication. Another tip I would have is, making sure that you and your loved one are communicating about the things that might bother you out here. I know a lot of times we try to keep those things from them because we know they're going through enough. But I think that it's important to keep an open line of communication with them, just about how you're feeling and, how the people are around you are. What you think about that, Leah?
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. And I would also include the tip that, especially in today's day and age, you got to be honest. You got to be honest with your family. You got to be honest about their charges. You got to be honest about their sentence, because anybody in this world is one Google search away from knowing anything and everything, and that's like with Clint. When I presented it to my family, I told them from the start, he has a natural life sentence.
Mm-hmm.
He was convicted of felony murder, because
Right.
if you don't be honest with them, they're going to dig it up on their own, and then they're
Right.
going to come up with their own scenarios. They're going
Right.
to come up with their own opinions of, well, why wouldn't she have told me? Or why wouldn't he have told me that this is what she did? Unless he, there's more to it. And, it's the biggest thing is you got to be honest with everybody.
Right. I definitely agree with you there. When I was talking to one of my uncles, that we're family and I love them, but we aren't particularly as close as those that know most about my relationship. And I told him his name and things like that. And the next time I talked to him, he let me know that he did Google him. Okay. And he had questions, and I was prepared to answer those questions. You know what I mean? Like you said, you do have to be honest, but I'm always been a person. I don't volunteer much information. My bestest of friends will tell you I'm very elusive, and I don't know why. I'm sitting in my house and you ask me where I'm at, and I'm like, why? Like, I ain't doing nothing. So, but you have to, that's another tip. Be prepared for your family and friends to ask questions. Okay. And we know people are human. People don't always do things the right way, but those that are coming to you with concern and love and just genuinely want to know, don't be afraid to talk to them and be honest, like you said, Leah, and the communication, and know that if you're dealing with someone that has a particular charge, know that there's gonna come questions with that. And it's also going to come, maybe some fear for your family members, because they don't understand. A long time, the narrative is anybody that went to prison is just an awful and bad person. But as you and I both know, everybody that's in prison don't deserve to be there or shouldn't be there because they never did anything wrong. So be prepared to answer questions from your family, but also know that you don't have to tell them everything. You still deserve a level of privacy. Just because your loved one is incarcerated doesn't mean you have to run down all of their business to their nephews and nieces and what they did when they were 2. You don't have to do that. There's still a level of protection and respect that should come in that relationship, right? So do you have any other tips, Leah, based on your experiences when it comes to just dealing with family that just don't understand?
Don't give up. That's the biggest thing. Don't give up on them. Just because your family might not agree with it right now doesn't mean they might not, doesn't mean they won't change their mind. Like you said, they may never come around. And if they don't ever come around, they don't ever come around. But if you give up trying, you're not going to know, and you could find out years down the road they were willing to have that conversation, but you hesitated. A lot of it's just, make it aware. Like when I first got with Clint, I knew my family was hesitant. So I didn't push them to talk to him right away. He mailed them a letter, and introduced himself and stuff like that. And then I when I'd see him, I'd just casually bring him up about, oh, well, yeah, Clint and I talked about this, or they talk about what's going on, something going on in the world, and it's, oh yeah, Clint and I were talking about that because he saw it on the news, just little remarks, just so they knew he's still present in my life. And that's what allowed them to, when they were ready to accept him and to accept our relationship, they felt more comfortable coming to me and letting me know they were ready to accept it.
Right. And that leads me right into my next tip about including them in your life to your family, though they can't see him. Like you just said, hey, yeah, me and Clint was talking about this. And that leads me into, it's kind of the same tip, but it expands on it. Be mindful of what you tell your family,
Yep.
because that it's just like any relationship. Okay, you and your boo done had a fight. It could be petty, it could be serious. You tell your family, and they're gonna hold on to that.
Hmm.
Y'all done moved on. Y'all done made up. Y'all, writing hearts in the sand and kissy faces and poems, and they still mad. So be mindful of what you tell. You don't have to tell every argument. You want to bring up and talk about the good things about them, their good qualities and things like that. And that will assist your family on feeling like they're getting to know him, like they know him. They're seeing what they do in your life, how they're changing you. If your loved one has inspired you to do something, let your family know that.
Hmm.
Yeah, you see that I'm doing this, my loved one, they got my back in this. They're the one that motivated me. Your family wants to see that whoever you choose cares for you, is cultivating you, is loving you, is treating you right. So just because they're incarcerated and out of sight don't mean they have to be out of mind, right? I
Exactly.
think you can definitely understand that, right? um
Exactly.
Let me think of other tips when it comes to families.
And
Hmm.
just to like expand on what you said, as far as seeing the changes in you, that was when my mom finally did come around. And even, just recently in the last few weeks, my aunt has came around. A lot of it was, my mom told me, you are happier than I've seen you since before you were a teenager. You're happier than I've ever seen you. It's, I didn't have a picture perfect life. I didn't have it horribly rough, but I didn't have picture perfect. So I was forced to grow up quick. I didn't really have a childhood, so her to sit there and say, you're happier than you're the happiest I've seen you since you were a child, since before all of that bad shit happened, before, life
Right.
turned you cold. Like, she saw that change in me, and that's what helped her open up her eyes to him.
Yeah. Our family appreciates things that make us better and things that make us happy. I know when I see my friends or family happy, even strangers on Facebook, I have all types of friends, and I see them happy, I'm loving stuff and caring. I'm like, I hope their girlfriend don't get mad. I've never met this guy. I'm just happy that he's smiling and that he's alive and you there. Like, I'm just happy. Our family needs and wants to hear that because they're not here to show who they are. So the only way that they learn who they are is through us. So that's why I said you got to be mindful of what you say. And like Leah first brought up, include them in your life, include them in your conversations and the things that's going on so that they can remember that they're present because they can't see them. So you have to remind them sometimes that they're there. So what have we covered so far, right? We said know that your family and friends, most of them are coming from a loving, caring place. So don't lead with anger when they start to ask you questions. Be prepared for questions. They're going to come. Like I said, and Leah also said, my uncle, he Googled my husband. We know that's what they're going to do. What's his name? That's the thing now.
Yep.
My grandfather, he 84. He can Google everything. You know what I mean? So be secure in your relationship enough to know what it is and what it's not. Be mindful of the things that we are talking. Remember, there's a level of privacy that still needs to be had, even though they're not there. And like we both have said, and some of us know, some of your loved ones are never going to come around. And you have to be okay with that because you still love them. Please know they still love you. That's why they're not coming around because they don't understand and they love you so much and they want the best for you, right? You have to be okay with that because in any regular situation, when a man and a wife come together, they leave their family and they become one. Your loved one incarcerated is no different. They're just in a different place. So know and be okay with that. Okay. And it should your heart should be in it enough to where you're secure in that. And it might hurt. Nobody doesn't want to talk to their mom or their sister or, you know, but it's okay. It's okay. It's gonna be okay. Do you have any other family tips?
Um, I'm trying to think. I mean, not really. I think pretty much that's,
Yeah,
you
just
know,
don't
that's
punch them. Don't
right.
punch 'em.
Right. Don't burn that bridge with your family, because
Right.
what if they do come around later? Like you had said, like, if they don't come around, you gotta accept that. There are some people that's okay if, just like a relationship in the world, if you're gonna be with him, fine, be with him, but I don't want him in my house.
Okay.
I've dated men before where that was my mom's thing was, if you're gonna date him, you're gonna do whatever you want to do, but he's not welcome in my home. Have that same respect when it comes to your loved one. If they're gonna be that against it, okay, then when you go visit them and spend time with them, don't bring them up as much. Don't, they don't want to feel like you're putting it in their face when they're not okay with it.
Hmm.
It's kind of a relationship with someone in there isn't that different from being out here. The only difference is they're not physically here, you know,
Right. And I
and
was
it,
talking to somebody about that. Like the fact that they're not physically here kind of gives us an up when it comes to the meat and potatoes of relationships.
yeah,
Like I was saying to you before we recorded, they're not here to woo 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 and swoop your hair and all of that. You have to communicate
yeah,
to keep it right, and hopefully you're effectively communicating
right,
to keep it right. And I feel like in this type of situation, our judgment is less clouded because a lot of people find cloudiness when the person is there to touch them. What they call it, makeup sex. I've never done that. I
yeah,
don't want it. Somebody told me it's toxic. I believe her. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes that can cloud your judgment. So I feel like in these type of situations, all we have is communication.
yeah,
All we have is to work it out or not. All we have is getting to the meat and potatoes.
hmm,
So to me, I feel like it's stronger. Like I've been in a few different relationships, even a relationship with my ex-husband who was incarcerated, and it's totally different. The communication is different. So I want to get into that in our last 8 minutes. Every situation is different. Now, a lot of people have this misconception that all relationships like this are bad and doomed and he's using you and this that and the other. No, I'm here to tell you that there are plenty men and women that are incarcerated that have income, that are giving back to their families, that have strong minds, that have ideas and things like that. Now, of course, there's people that aren't so good and are users, but guess what? They're in the free world too. They're in a free world too. So this is something we need to be mindful, period. Because I could see somebody who's not worth a damn walking down the street, and then meet someone who's incarcerated that wants me to be the happiest that I can be. So know that all situations are different, and know your situation and be real about your situation. Communication is important. That's all that we have. I know Leah and anyone else that is in this situation, be it, your spouse or your friend or a family member, communication is important. I think you was here, Leah, when I was talking about the hanging up. When you get upset on the phone and you hang up,
yeah,
we don't have that privilege. I told
no,
my husband, we don't have the privilege of hanging up. You're not right next door. You're not right down the street. I can't come and drive to you.
hmm,
We have to work through those things. And that's why I say we kind of have an advantage when it comes to the meat and potatoes. What you think, Lee?
I agree. I tell my fiance all the time. He's a big one when we do have disagreements. He don't want to talk about it right now. He's like, I don't want to talk about it right now.
That's
We'll deal with
me.
it
That's
later.
me.
And
Mhm.
and with him, I'm like, okay, I get that, but at the same time, in this kind of relationship, you don't know if that next call is going to come in an hour, if it's going to come in a day, if it's going to come in a week. There could be something that happens at the facility, and then they can't call for a week, and you're just sitting there thinking about how your last call went and how that argument went. And that's what I've got to kind of talk to him and explain to him, like, I wholeheartedly get needing your space and needing your time, but like you said, we don't get the luxury of hanging up. We don't get the
Right,
luxury of always waiting to work stuff out. We don't,
right,
you know,
right.
we don't know if that call is going to come later.
Right. And I'm glad that you brought that up. So, I have a different perspective on it. Like I'm with your your husband. I don't want to talk about it right now. So I'm glad you brought it up so I can bring, the perspective to the platform. The reason why I say that is because I'm highly emotional. And when I'm highly emotional, I'm an asshole. I don't care. I meant what I said, but I didn't mean it, but I meant what I said. But sometimes everything don't need to be said.
Right.
So I'm the type of person of something's happened. My irrational side wants to cuss you up from your left pinky toe to your right pinky toe. But I know that's not really constructive. I know you're not coming home tonight so we can talk about it. This might be the last call. I just need a moment so I can think about what I want to say and put it in a way that's constructive. Because it's one thing, you're so stupid, I can't believe you did that. That's an emotional response in the heat of the moment. But give me some time to think about it. I'll be like, I don't understand why you did that. Can you explain that to me? See how that hits totally different? And then it opens up the lanes of communication so they can explain, this is why I did that. And then you can get some perspective. It still might be foolish to you, but you can at least see their perspective.
Right.
And it can soften your heart. Like you said, we don't get that opportunity. And I can attest that anybody here, even you, we can be so mad at them, but they miss one call. We say, I don't even care if he calls. Let them not call. Like, oh my God, is everything okay? Is he mad at me? Did I say too much? Did he say too much? Do I need to call the nurse? Do I need to call the warden?
Yeah.
It's love.
Yeah. And that's like, that's what I told him, if we can't work it out in the phone call, fine. We can't work it out in the phone call, but make sure, the phone call is always going to end in an I love you, always, because we don't know when that next call is coming, right. So at the end of the day, you've got to, remind each other that your love is stronger than whatever the problem is. Your love is bigger than the problem.
Right. And I'm also like, I'm a part of a few groups that are for people that are loved ones of incarcerated. And I noticed that there's a lot of mental head games that people play. And that's really not fair, the not calling from them, the not answering for us. It's trouble later, especially if you're going to stay. I told my husband, if I'm mad at you and you call me, I'm going to answer. I might not talk to you,
right,
but I'm going to answer that phone. Because sometimes in their little cell, in their little space, in that little room, in their heart, they need to know that.
Right.
Because most of the things that we're thinking and going through and feeling, they feel them too. But they're not in an environment where they can go cry. They're not in an environment where they can call up their girlfriend and vent. Most of these men and women are in a situation where they always have to be fortified. They always have to be strong. They can't cry. They can't feel. They can't show anything. And as their loved ones, we have to be mindful of that.
Right.
We got to care about that. We got to want to not be part of the problem and come up with ways that if there is a problem, we can express it to them in a way that they can deal with.
Right. And that's not easy to do. There's times when we've been, Clint and I have been in an argument and I'm bawling on the phone and he's just quiet, and I get mad because he's not upset, and that's why I'm like, why can't you just show some emotion? If you love me, then why isn't this hurting you? And and he'll always tell me, it's not that it's not hurting me. It's that I can't show that, and I have to remind myself that all the time that, just because he's not showing his pain doesn't mean he's not hurt.
Right. And that's something that as loved ones, we have to consider. My husband, he always says it best. Like when I be doing something, because, I got people that look at Jay Renee, they think so many things, but trust me, all the beautiful things, I got some ragged edges too, and I always apologize. I be like, man, I don't know, he be like, it's a labor of love. I love you. I don't mind doing those back-to-back calls because the wind blew too hard and you're acting crazy. You know what I mean? Like, it's a labor of love. And I think that us on the outside can remember that too. It's a labor of love to answer that call when you don't feel like it. It's a labor of love to just do things, you know?
Right.
You understand that labor of love, I understand. I'm sure, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So we did decide to keep this show a little short. You know, it's a little teaser, you know what they call them. But you know, the low will definitely be with y'all coming 2022. And we do plan on having our shows, but this was just a little teaser, you know, to say hello and introduce ourselves and, you know, just give y'all some tips on how to deal with your family and just how to deal with being out here. You know what I mean? If you haven't added the National Plus Coalition, please make sure that you do. This is how you will keep up with us, the things that we're doing. We often have, you know, different presentations that talk about different things that are going on in the activism world, as far as, you know, the prison world and things like that. And we have shows like these. And I have a show, you know, that's going to be every Friday called Activism Across the Nation, where we just talk about different things and, you know, activism. So we hope that you definitely will add us. Before we go, Lee, do you have anything that you want to add or leave our listeners with?
Um, Not really. I mean, the main thing is just it's, you know, they you can't you don't give up on them. You know, don't give up on either one of them. Don't give up on your loved one that's incarcerated, and don't give up on your family that might not accept it.
Right. And
You
but
know,
and never give up on ourselves.
exactly.
Don't let these people drive you crazy.
Mhm.
Your loved one or your family. If everybody getting on your nerves, turn your phone off and go do what you want to do. Go paint your toes.
Mhm.
Okay. Don't forget to take time for self. You shouldn't be taking so much time trying to explain to family, trying to no. Take some time for yourself. That's okay.
Mhm.
That's how we stay sane and normal and strong. We got to take those moments to ourselves. Again, I am Jay Renee. I thank you so much for being here on the low. Okay, you will definitely be able to find us 2022. Okay, we're going to be here every week for you with the show on various topics. Okay, so make sure that you add us and feel free to check out our previously recorded shows. We have lots of content that I think that everyone will find very interested. You can find it here on Facebook or our YouTube. Okay, so make sure that you link up. You got any plugs or last words, my dear?
No, just thanks for watching, and hopefully, you know, this advice helps somebody.
Yes. And don't be afraid to reach out to those that are going through the same thing.
Mhm.
Okay? They can give you encouragement, they can give you words of wisdom, they can kick you in the butt when you need it. You know, we have to stick together and you know, help each other. We're all in the same boat. So, you know, always lead with love and light and everything will be okay. It was nice for y'all to be here, and we will definitely see you next time. Y'all have a good night. Peace.